So welcome to today's episode. I am so excited to be having this conversation with Caitlin Hill, who I have been devouring all of her videos, especially towards the end of my pregnancy. I was watching her free birth of her twin daughters and I was just so inspired, and just how you shared in your video and your experience and just how open you are. Like, it's just such a pleasure to be talking with you today. So thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy life to join us here.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Yeah. So for a lot of people, especially around pregnancy and birth, there's so much fear, as you know yourself. And I'd love for you to just really just share the story of how you came to decide to actually have a home free birth with your twin daughters.
Yeah, for sure. So basically, how it started was initially I had my first daughter, who's 4 years old, in the hospital. And, it wasn't the most traumatizing birth, I think, as far as births go, but I just knew for my next birth that I was going to have a home birth. And when I had my first ultrasound at 9 weeks, I had actually previously joined a midwifery group before that initial ultrasound that I, felt was like a good match. It was near our house and everything. And I was like, yeah, this is where I'm gonna, have my midwife and everything. And so I sort of thought it was all very straightforward and all planned out. And then at that initial 9-week ultrasound, when I found out that it was twins, which was just like such a massive shock in and of itself, I was told by this midwifery on that same day that I was now high risk and I would not be able to be with a midwife anymore. Mm-hmm. Because I was, now I was of this high risk label. So that was such a massive shock. Two huge pieces of shock in one day. And I sort of basically disconnected my soul in a sense. Like, I really just kind of like felt very dim and numbed out the fact that I was going to have to now be with an OB. And yeah, it was very sad. And when I look back on it, and I remember asking the midwife that I was chatting to on the phone that now told me that they couldn't support me, that I wanted to be with the most holistic OB that there was. And she was like, oh yes, I know the one, she's really great. And so I was sort of like, okay, well, this is just my destiny now. This is my reality. I don't have a choice, and this is just the way I'm going to go. And so for the first three or 4 months after that, I was going for my regular OB appointments and sort of going along with it, I guess. And then there was just this voice inside of me that was like, this, you don't have to do it like this. And I slowly started to sort of just like read books on home birth. I started with orgasmic birth. And when I was reading that, I was just like, every single part of it was saying, how great home births are and how ecstatic they were and how people had hospital births and they'd had home births. And I was like, wow, this is what I want to do. And so from there, it was pretty hard to turn back because I was reading all this information and it just made so much sense to me. So yeah, I just started to just learn and just devour all of this information on, physiological birth and giving birth at home. And so I kind of went for a little while thinking, oh, maybe I'll just try to have like the most natural birth in the hospital. And yeah, it just wasn't going in that direction. Like, every time I went to my appointments, the OB was saying, no, you can't have a water birth. Like, no, you're not going to want to do that. Like, why would you? No. And, when I said that I wanted to have my daughter there, that was the most important thing to me, was that my daughter was going to be there. She was like, no, like, why would you put her through that? Like, why would you like traumatize her like that? And, just basically saying, I mean, the final straw for me basically was when she told me that I was going to have an ultrasound in between the first baby coming out and the second baby coming out.
What?
Yeah. So, and I would have been lucky to have had the first baby come out vaginally. And then they would do an ultrasound in between. I'm like trying to figure out how they're going to do an ultrasound in between two babies coming out. Like, why is that the priority? But it would be to see if the baby was breech or not. And then whether the baby was breech or not, which, like, God knows, I would have been like lying down on a table. So I would have had no control over anything moving or changing. And I could have had a C-section if the baby was breech, or for various reasons. It was just all very scary. And she just said to me, like, most of the time, like 90% of the time, what they'll do with the second baby is she'll just reach her hand inside and pull the baby out. And that was just the final straw for me. I was just like, no, I don't want you anywhere, near me, quite frankly, so, it was just so very disturbing to hear those words. And, and then I was sort of like, okay, well, I knew after that appointment, I was like, I'm going to leave her. But it was tough. It was really hard. It was hard to make that choice of leaving. And
sorry, what stage were you at in your pregnancy when you decided to leave her?
That was at 33 weeks.
Yeah.
So it was pretty far along.
Yeah.
And my plan was kind of, oh, well, I don't have to leave her. Like, I could just stay with her, till the very end. And then, oops, I just gave birth at home. That was an option as well. But I just knew that the stress that was going to be put on me nearing the end there, with like the stress test and the glucose test and the ultrasounds alone, I was just like, this is just not how I want to spend the end part of my pregnancy. So I just left. I just sent an email, said, I'm done. And they were very confused. I don't think that happens very often.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it was very confusing. I got a lot of phone calls, and I was just like, I just knew in my heart that just wasn't what I wanted for myself and the babies and my eldest daughter. So, that was sort of how it happened, how it went down. And yeah.
And how did you feel, towards those last weeks of your pregnancy? Like, were you like feeling liberated? Were you feeling just in a new space altogether? Like, what was your experience?
Yeah, it was, initially I was so scared, like so very scared. I remember like my husband and I went for a drive and just like through the woods here. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I just want to leave. I know that this is what I want to do. I just have to follow it. Cause there's receiving the guidance from yourself and like hearing that your own guidance and your own intuition, but then like following it is a whole different thing. And it was sort of new to me in the sense of doing something like that big, and also just like the fact that I was going to be taking full responsibility for whatever happened.
Yeah.
Right. That was like really, I think the scariest part was that I was fully responsible. So yeah, I was initially quite scared. And then once I sent that email in, it was like ripping off a Band-Aid. I was like, okay, well, that's it. And then I felt so very free. Like I felt like, autonomous. I was so liberated. Like, I was like, wow, I could really make my own choices in this world.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a pretty wild feeling
It is.
to feel that. Yeah.
And because, you know, obviously I have my son, the 19th of April, I'm looking at him here. He's actually still in his bouncing chair thing, and he's loving it. But like that, you know, towards the end of my pregnancy, or even earlier on in the pregnancy, when I told people, you just hear so many fear stories, and it's like, oh, you know, it's just like, oh, massive. So I just really cocooned myself away.
Yeah.
Made sure that I was only consuming content and interacting with people who would actually empower the choices that I was making, and help me to step into that. You know, that taking that full responsibility is a massive leap, because we've been so conditioned from the very beginning to you know, really externalize our power.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. For sure. Yeah, I can totally relate to you on cocooning away and not wanting to tell anyone, because we didn't tell anybody. Anybody. We actually did hire a doula. So I did have a doula present at the birth, and she was supported us beforehand and after as well. So she was like the only other person that knew.
Yeah.
And I, you know, I wish, like, in the perfect world, I wish that we could have just like told everyone.
I know. Yeah.
You know, but I just knew that I didn't want to take everyone else's fears on, especially when they didn't know all the things that that I knew and that I had been researching on for so long. You know, they only knew what they had been told and what they had been you know, conditioned with. And so I can totally resonate with that.
And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have this conversation with you and share it publicly, is because, you know, it's only through hearing other people's experiences that you kind of go, okay, that's possible for me, or that might be possible for me. And just like, even just try that on. And I think, for me, like myself, my partner, Richie, we decided not to share it with people. Apart from like a very few close friends that, you know, weren't going to say anything. It was very much kept private, because I knew that just the fear would, because even sharing around home birth, I, you know, for a lot of people, like that is just like,
I know,
massive leap, you know?
Yeah.
To say, well, I'm actually taking it on, you know, I'm not hiring a medical provider.
Like, what? Like, yeah, are you crazy? Yeah.
They're like,
I know.
Because again, and it's all through us sharing our stories. Like, if you know, say, oh, well, this lady Caitlin in Canada, like I've been sharing you with people over here. I'm like, you need to check out Caitlin's channel, because especially around twins, people are like, oh, it's not possible. Like, you have to have all these interventions. Like, your body can't give birth to them.
Do it. Yeah.
And like,
it's not capable.
Yeah. And so everyone, like, will be linking in the video here and in the description to check out Caitlin's Freebirth video of her twins being born, which is just so beautiful. I've seen it a number of times now. I'm like, oh my God. I was like, I don't ever need to watch TV. I was like, watching just like better than anything, because
I love it.
They just open up your mind and your consciousness to, well, if that's possible, and I thought it wasn't possible, like, what else is possible for us?
Yeah.
You know, like, the birth is just the beginning, as you know yourself.
That's it. It really is. It really starts with birth. Everything. It really does. And we've you know, in our society, we're so disconnected from birth. We think that it doesn't matter. And it so very much does. And that's what people used to say to me when I would sort of just mention that, you know, I wanted to have a home birth, like you were saying, just mention it to people. Oh, no, that's not safe. Like, that's no, you can't do that. It's just a day. It's just a day of your life. Like, don't even think about it. Just forget about it and just do what they tell you to do. And it's, but I really learned that that's just not the case. I really, like, my birth has changed me in so many ways. And it's empowered me in so many ways. And it's shown me what is possible. And not just for myself, but for others. Like you were saying. So it's, it is so important. It really, really, really is.
Yeah, because did you feel like moving through that initiation of birthing, like in your power, like how that changed you on a cellular level? It's almost like you came into it and you just come out like a different person, even though you're the same person, but it's like you've changed on such a fundamental level.
Yeah. It's shocking. Like, and the thing is that it will continue to change you. Like you were just saying, you're 3 months postpartum, it's like a pancake effect. Like it continues to change you. Even now I had the twins 15 months ago on April 8th. So it was just before you. And, or I mean, you know, last year, but it's even now, every day I'm like, wow, like I feel like I actually healed that part of myself that I didn't even realize that I needed to heal.
Mm-hmm.
Like I notice that now. I really, really, really feel healed in so many ways. It's on a cellular level. And just, there's just a sense of power that I feel like I really can do so much more than I ever thought was possible.
I know. Actually, when I gave birth, like I was here in my living room just behind where we're recording, and I was just like, I can actually do anything. If I can do that, I can actually do anything.
Yeah.
That feeling. And I'm sure like it must have been even multiplied for the fact that you had 2 babies that you birthed.
Yeah, it was pretty mind-blowing for sure. It was especially mind-blowing because the second baby was the easiest part of the whole birth, because everyone had been fearing me so much about that second baby. That was everyone was like, it's going to be the second baby that's going to be the hard part. Like we really just don't know how to deliver the second baby. And actually I didn't mention this before, but because it is such a long story, but when I was pregnant and I was calling around to different midwiferys to see if a midwifery would take me or would support me just to be here. And there was one midwife that actually said that she would.
Okay.
But she was fear-mongering me so much that she was like, I will just come to be there to give you for hospital transfer. Like if you need to transfer to the hospital. And I was like, well, I really don't want to have that energy around.
No, because it's like you're setting yourself up that you're going to fail. Like
right.
Yeah.
Right. Like if that's the only reason you're going to be here, then for sure we're going to find a reason to go to the hospital.
Of course, you'll have it in your head. Is this the time to transfer? You know?
Right. Exactly. Well, I better fulfill your role here because that's the only reason why you're here.
Yeah.
And she had 0 experience in delivering twins. And so when I spoke to her, she was like, it's that second baby. That second baby is going to be the hard part. That was going to be the tough one. And I just say, you know, I sort of marinated on it for like a couple of days. And I just was like, I again just came back to like, what was my inner voice saying? And it was like, no, don't have her there. Why would you want to have her there? So I just called her back and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to stick with my OB. And she was like, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
And so, but it was the second baby that came out that was like that's why I was laughing. That's why I started laughing right after she was born. I was just laughing because I was like, oh my God, that was so easy. Really, really, truly just the easiest part was just, she just popped right out. And like, I can remember her like face, her eyes, like looking at me, like bring her up from the water and everything. Like it was so hysterical. Like I was just like, oh my God, that was so, how was that so easy? It was so funny. And so you know that's why I was laughing and just,
you know what that as well. It's like you're laughing because it's almost, you've just dissolved like this whole illusion that was being put on you.
Yeah.
This whole projection. It's almost like the boogeyman or, you know, something under your bed. And then you look under and it's like a teddy bear. And you're like, what?
Yeah, exactly.
What are you talking about? You know? And you're just like,
exactly.
Oh my God, you know, and then it just brings to question everything then, you know. It's just like, you know, we've been so conditioned with so much limitation and so much fear that it's like women like you, women like me who are choosing to birth in this way and to mother and to live in this way, it's like we are actually creating a whole new paradigm, like literally different
Yeah.
reality
Yes.
completely, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah, really, truly, really, truly. And I feel like it's happening very much now. Yeah, I really, really do. And that's my driving force
Yeah.
is, yeah, just creating this new, oh, I can hear my daughter outside. Just, yeah, creating this new, world and earth for our kids now, and to just do things differently
Yeah.
than how we've been doing things. There is a different way. And yeah, we've just been so conditioned into thinking otherwise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So it's huge.
And it's a time of us also, I think, no longer having like other people as experts outside of ourselves. I think
Yes.
that's a fundamental thing, because things can't change if we're just continuing the same patterning and
Yeah.
the same dynamics. Like we have to evolve beyond them now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's interesting how many people just aren't wanting to even, I guess it comes back to that self-responsibility again, and just being like, okay, no, I'm responsible for everything that I put in and on my body, and what I choose to do on a day-to-day basis. And I think a lot of people just are so used to asking for others for validation, or not wanting to take responsibility for their own health by what they're choosing to eat, or etc. And so it can be scary.
Mm-hmm.
It can be scary for a lot of people to realize that, like, no, you're actually responsible for your own reality. And yeah, it's just it, we just are. And yeah, so
And I love,
it sorry, I was going to say it is a big responsibility, but once you know that you've got your own back and you're looking out for you better than anyone else, like I knew with being in the hospital, people will say, oh, well, you're so brave. Like, you're so brave that you had a home birth with twins. And I'm like, well, no, I mean, yes, for sure. Yeah, definitely. But also I was way more scared to be in the hospital.
yeah.
Way more scared to be in the hospital, because I knew that all of my power was going to be taken away from me. And that is way more terrifying to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd already been in that position before,
Yeah.
with my first daughter. So I know what it felt like to just be like totally out of control of my own body and what I was doing. And I really, that scares me
Yeah.
the most
Yeah.
out of anything in the whole world. So.
And I think, you see, hospital birth is so, well, it's kind of promised to us as it's like it's safe and it's kind of controlled, and this outside expert is monitoring everything, and and it's just purely mechanical. But like birth is so much more than that, and I really now know that from like my actual lived experience, that it's like birth is, and I think I've heard you say this as well, like it's a spiritual experience as well as very, very physical experience. And there's this like sacred divinity about it that isn't there is no position, or there's no space for that within the hospital setting as it is right now.
It's pretty limited. Yeah, it's pretty hard to, I mean, people do it. You can have like I don't want to say natural birth in the hospital. You can have a vaginal birth in the hospital.
Yeah.
And I mean, you can, I have friends that have had natural births in the hospital, but it's very intentional.
Yeah.
Very purposeful. And they really have to advocate for themselves, like the whole time, like really fight for it.
Yeah.
So it's not like this easy, flow, for me, like, I don't know if you ever read any or listened to any of Sarah Buckley during your pregnancy.
Yeah.
She was like one of my biggest go-tos. And she always said, to have physiological birth is to be private, safe, and unobserved. And that was just like, okay, private, safe, and unobserved. Like, where can I feel that? And, for me, I felt safest being at home, and I felt unobserved being at home. you know, whereas for someone else, maybe they feel safer being in the hospital. And, you know, I'm not to say that that's like wrong, because everyone should be able to choose what they want to do.
Yeah. Exactly.
But it's just like, make that choice for yourself,
Mm-hmm.
you know, make that choice, and also know and that you can make your own choices when you're there too.
Mm-hmm.
They don't make it seem like you can, but you can.
I know.
You just have to be really, really, really strong and strict about it. Like, even when going back to my first birth, I, you know, took the, oh gosh, which chest was it? The one that was near the end. It was for the, like the strep or whatever.
Yeah, I know that one. Yeah.
Yeah. I can't even remember. There's so many of those terms, but it was anyways, I tested positive for it. It's basically having a yeast infection at the end of your pregnancy.
Yeah.
And so I tested positive, which is very common. So they were like, oh, you're going to have antibiotics during your birth. And I was like, well, that's, you know, and this was in my first birth. This was 6 years ago, when I was definitely, you know, I'd done hypnobirthing with her, and I was like, you know, wanted to have a very natural hospital birth. And, but I was like, you know, that seems weird to me, to take an antibiotic during my birth when I have just spent, you know, 9 months being so clean, not, you know, I can't use essential oils, I can't eat raw this, I can't, you know, all these things. And suddenly it's like, you're going to give me an antibiotic. And anyway, so I said, no, that I didn't. When I got to the hospital, I was like, they were like, oh, we're going to put the antibiotic in. And I said, no, I don't want it.
Yeah.
And they made me sign a waiver,
Mm-hmm.
being like, okay, you're in the high risk category and you're taking personal responsibility if blah, 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 blah happens, you know? And so it's like, yeah, okay, I was able to make that choice, but most people don't know.
No.
Most people wouldn't do that.
No.
You know, so
yeah. So it was already in you there, I think, from the very beginning.
most definitely it was already there. But yeah, if you don't know that you can kind of like accept and decline things, then
yeah. People have no idea that it's like it's all an opt-in. Like, yeah, it all requires your consent.
Yeah,
Everything does.
yeah. Everything. So yeah, I can't remember how that conversation started, but what the initial question was. But yeah, it's there, you always have a choice to.
Yeah. So now I saw you're offering sessions helping women and, you know, having autonomous births. And yeah.
Yes.
When did you start to feel the call to support others?
I think just by sharing my story, like right off the bat, when I first found out I was pregnant with twins, I felt very alone. I didn't know who to talk to about it, because it is so rare.
Mm-hmm.
And so it sort of started from then. And I started my YouTube channel. I started sharing my weekly pregnancy updates, even though I wasn't sharing what was going on with wanting to choose to free birth. I was just talking about how I was feeling week by week. So I didn't really think it was like so necessary to go there. And again, I didn't want to be, you know, putting that out there on the internet, when, you know, I just wanted to keep it for us. But so yeah, just sharing my story then. And then I just started getting so much incredible feedback from people. So many women contacting me that were pregnant with twins, and just singleton births as well. So it just sort of felt like it was like creating a community that is so needed. And like you were saying, like just sharing stories is what creates change. Mm-hmm. So it just felt like, well, of course I want to share my birth, and of course I want to talk about why I chose to free birth, and sort of you know, all of it really. So yeah, just I started getting so many women, you know, messaging me and contacting me and asking me like, why did you choose to do it? Or you know, just asking me questions, that it kind of got to the point where it was like, okay, I feel like it's at the point now where I want to create a space where I can actually set time aside and talk to people one-on-one. Mm-hmm. Because I think that there are so many so many women that need the support right now.
Yeah.
And like I said, again, for twins, it's so limited.
Yeah.
So limited. So most of the calls that I do are for twin moms, but I'm very open to do it for singleton pregnancies as well. But yeah, I'm so happy to be here to be able to support people in their journey of just wanting to make their own choices in their birth. And yeah, so yeah, it started way back
Yeah.
in the pregnancy. Yeah.
Because I think, like, I'm not sure if it was similar for you, but for me, the only reason I was able to choose Freebirth and, you know, take that on myself was actually from learning from so many other women and their experiences, and diving into like just being in those spaces is just like for me, I wouldn't have been able to take it on if I hadn't have had all that support around me, because I would have just like, the fear would have just crept in.
Yeah.
Don't know what you're doing, but I went through everything that was like all possible scenarios, and you know what looks like risk, what isn't actually risk, and actually how how to create the ideal conditions for your birth to unfold as it's meant to be. But I think without that wisdom, you know, that would have been passed down before, you know, we've missed that for a couple of generations anyway, going back. And so we now need to become those elders ourselves and actually create communities and collaborate with each other to support what are our vision and what are our shared values, and how we can actually bring them about together.
That's it. It's sort of like relearning all of these things and retrusting in it. And yeah, I'm sure there's like so much ancestral trauma that we don't even know about.
I know.
That's within us.
Yeah.
You know, from the things that you know our ancestors must have gone through with birth. Like man, I wish I knew. I wish I could know what it was like. But then, you know, a couple of generations before that, then they would have been, you know, free birthing, or they would have had, you know, traditional style of midwives and midwifery, and it would have been more similar to what you and I, or how you and I chose to give birth. So yeah, it's definitely about bringing it back and yeah, sharing stories. And oh my gosh, I wanted to listen to like every single free birth story when I was at the end of my pregnancy. I was just like devouring it, like, oh my gosh, it's it's so amazing to hear it all. So
it is, because it like activates that remembrance within your own body, within your own self, that it's like, hey, if this person was able to step into that, well, so can I. So that's why I think the value of us sharing our stories and not hiding it back, because there can be part of you be like, oh, I don't want to put this out because it's not mainstream, you know, it's not like what people talk about. It's just, for me, it's much bigger than just our individual selves now. I think it's like, it's part of like this bigger picture of where the earth is moving to and how we're contributing to that shift in consciousness.
I know, totally. Because sometimes I'm like, oh, I don't even want to be on social media. I just want to turn off my phone and just go and like
I know.
live in the jungle or something. But then I'm like, but what am I doing to create change? What am I doing to connect with others and to put my story out there? So you know, it's just, that's not doing anything at this point in time. It's really about, like, the thing is about social media is we have millions of people at our fingertips that we can be in contact with. Like, look, you and I, you know, we live on other sides of the world and we're able to share our stories. So it's really special to be able to do that.
Yeah.
So I don't see any point in hiding anymore, even though there's some days where I want to. It's like, no, I don't think that there's nothing.
I know.
It's got to be out there. So,
absolutely. And I said as well, it's like, you know, we talk a lot, especially in the wellness world, about like healing ancestral trauma and all these things. But I think we have such power to rewrite our stories in the present moment that actually heals the past as well as the future. That it's like, it's all existing in this moment. You know, it's like our ability to create like healing for generations to come, I think, comes through doing this work.
Absolutely. I mean, just the fact that my daughter was able to be there and watch her sisters being born, I was like, that's in her forever.
Forever. That's amazing.
forever. That's, you know, that's shifted her DNA
Mhm.
forever. So, and also my grandmother had twins as well. So I have aunts that are twins, and you know, my grandmother's passed on now, but I just wish I could know, like, what was that birth like? What did that look like for her? Because I
Yeah.
imagine it would have been extremely, extremely medicalized.
Yeah.
And I felt in my birth, in some ways that I had done some healing for her as well.
Mm.
And or I could feel that within myself.
Yeah.
That there was a shift there. So yeah, it's what we do now is we're rewriting now. and sorry, go on. Just
No,
kind
I was going to say that it's like it's creating the foundations for a whole new reality. So the birth is just the beginning of that reality that you're forming for your
Yeah.
family. You know, it's like it's not just about oh, I gave birth at home or I gave birth in the hospital. It's actually about you're actually creating this lifelong foundation that you're going to be building from that, like you're almost sourcing from it the whole time, aren't you? And you're like bringing it through.
Right. That's so true. It's so true. Yeah. It's really, everything stems from it.
It really does.
It's yeah. And so it is sacred, and it is important to feel good about it, you know? And I can't tell you how many women I talk to now that just have these stories that are just so traumatizing. And it's just like, it's so heartbreaking.
I know.
To hear them. It's like, oh, what? Oh my gosh. I just don't even know. Like it's tough. It's tough to hear these stories of being in the hospital and just hearing these interventions after intervention after intervention after intervention. And then, oh my gosh, then the doctor saved my life.
I know, of
you
course.
know, and it's like, it's tough. It's really tough to know what to say. And, you know,
but I think the biggest service that you're offering, I can see anyway, is that you're actually showing people that it doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to be traumatic. It can be actually very graceful. It can be graceful. And it can be, as you even said, it was like hilarious that you had such ease with your second baby coming through, that it's like, people, we need like public service.
I know. I was just PSA for sure. Yeah, definitely. It can be really ecstatic and amazing. It doesn't have to be something that you want to forget.
Exactly. And I think because a lot of people tend to have awakenings from trauma, but I actually had a conversation last week and I was saying to a friend of mine that, you know, we can also awaken gracefully. We don't have to be traumatized. We don't have to be shell shocked. Like we can just open that, like this is an inbuilt initiation that's there for this reason, for us to awaken.
Yes. That's so true.
Yeah, I think that's why I'm like, I need to broadcast this out like far and wide.
Definitely. It's huge. It's really huge. There's a huge shift happening right now. So it's and it feels like there's, I mean, I feel that there's like a lot of people that are beginning to waken up now. More than it's been just even in the last few years. So
absolutely. Since 2020 is like everything is just like contracting in. So it's like we have to expand out into like a whole new dimension of existence.
Totally. It's just showing us what's important. And it's really huge. It's really, really huge for sure.
Well, you're playing an absolute amazing role in what you're doing, Caitlin.
Oh, thank you so much.
I was talking to my friend before I came on to record, and I was like, I feel like I know Caitlin.
Oh, that's so
you already. And like, even if you haven't met me, I feel like I know you because you know you're just you're just so open in how you share. And your energy is just like I can feel your potency, and I really appreciate what you're doing. So thank you. Yeah, think there was a woman in Ireland who you don't know. I was watching your videos, and like that helped me to step into my power in my birth,
Oh,
and
yeah.
to put my son into the world in water as well. We had the water pool, and it was
That's
amazing.
amazing.
Yeah, you know, so it's like we all can spark and ignite each other. And so, yeah, I just really want to recognize and honor the work that you're doing.
Oh, thank you so much. And I'm just so honored to be here chatting with you, and the fact that you are doing this work and you know, spreading it with your community as well is just, it's incredible. So I want to honor what you're doing as well, because it's so amazing and it's so needed at this time. And so yeah, I'm so honored to know you and to be a part of your journey. It's seriously, like, I remember even when I started my YouTube channel, I said to my husband, even if I can just help one other person, that's it for me. Like that's
Yeah.
everything for me. So yeah, it's very, very special to be able to inspire others. And yeah, it's everything to me. So
Oh, thanks so much. And so let everyone know how they can find you and how they can work with you and all that great stuff.
yeah, so you can check out my YouTube channel, which is you can just search my name, Caitlin Hill, on YouTube. And if you'd like to book a guidance session, one-on-one session, you can go to my website at caitlin-hill.com and you can book a session through there.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And it's been an
and you can follow my Instagram at Kate_Hill.
Yeah,
Forgot about that one.
Yeah, the Instagram is a great place I find to interact and just to kind of see your story and watch your journey. So yeah, I'm always checking you out.
Definitely.
So yeah.
Oh, so good. So good. Okay. So good to chat with you.
Thanks,
Take care. Bye.